In the past, when I thought about rally communities, I thought about Scandinavia and the rest of Europe, Finland, Sweden, Norway, then Ireland and Wales. And don't forget about Monaco with the Monte Carlo rally. But basically, I wasn't thinking New Zealand. I headed to New Zealand thinking the next time I'd pick up a wrench would be when I get back to finish my Impreza. I came to study academics. But when I left, I had a minor in kiwi rally racing. Honestly, when I got to New Zealand, I didn't expect to be filming anything for Drive. I thought I left my motorsports behind me. But within the first week of living in Middle-earth, that was a Lord of the Rings reference. But anyway, I realized that the wheels of a Boeing 777 touched me down in rally heaven. New Zealand is the best place to rally in the world. Okay, no, I'm not a world traveler, so this is merely my opinion. But let me instill some ideas in your head as to why I think it is. Here's 3 main reasons I can think of. Point 1. While you're ripping along in the best maintained dirt roads I have ever seen, you'll be graced with jaw-dropping scenery at every turn. And as you can see, if you point the camera this way, there is a 4,000 foot drop to a river and a 7,000 foot mountain. Point 2. Import laws are so lax here, which means while you're ripping along the most beautiful gravel roads, you're also doing it in some of the rarest and weirdest cars from all over the world. Point 3. The rally community here is as good as any, if not better, and it's also really easily accessible. Within a week, I stumbled into Tony Johnston's shop, and as you can see, it's pretty awesome. Oh yeah, and one more point, the camber. New Zealand gets lots of rain, so roads are built for runoff. To a rally driver, this translates to pitch the car into the corner and ride the camber. I rode along with one driver, and the feeling is unforgettable. All 3 of these points only became known to me once I ditched the skateboard, started skipping some classes at uni, and I bought myself a Toyota Starlet.
Getting close. We got ourselves a car, buddy.
$1,500, it was an offer I couldn't resist. I got a 4-speed sequential transmission, a 1-liter dual overhead cam Toyota engine producing 250 horsepower to the front wheels, LSD up front, big turbo. It's crazy. It almost throws you back in your seat. All right. Everything I said right there was a complete lie. My car has 50 horsepower, and pretty much nothing else I mentioned. Double rainbow all the way across the sky. Whoa! So intense. The car is no ultra rare gem or anything, but thanks to New Zealand's Trade Me, the well-groomed Kiwi version of Craigslist, I purchased the best car I've ever owned. I finally had wheels to discover what this country had to offer as far as motorsports. This Starlet is an EP70 series. Built in 1989, the 1-liter engine was equipped with the finest of mechanical advancements. such as a carburetor, and my all-time favorite, mechanically controlled choke. During its 6 months with me, I put over 15,000 kilometers on the 4-speed transmission. That, when driven at 100 kilometers per hour, was revving somewhere over $4,000. My friend and I split this car, and spent most of our weekends camping in it, driving to mountains, and to waterfalls to photograph, driving through places where signs permitted 4-wheel drive vehicles only, climbing up snowy slopes, and basically trying to outdo a Toyota Land Cruiser at any given opportunity. The car succeeded in just about every category, and for some reason, I still can't figure it out. The front-wheel drive small hatch with economy tires could climb anything, regardless of how much snow or mud was on the road. The wee Starlet is kicking everybody's ass right now. We are on top of the turn on Cargill. That is an all-wheel drive Subaru right there that is having issues of a lifetime. And the Starlet made it without even skidding. Here comes the Subaru. He's looking okay, but I guarantee he's gonna lose it right where those skid marks are. Here, oh, yep. Oh, there it is. Stay.
He's letting us go.
Stay. Thank you. I was so confident in the Starlet's ability to tackle anything, I even tried my hand at recreating some pro drifting. We are at the Crown Range, home of Mad Mike's awesome drift video from Red Bull, but this time I don't have an RX-7, I've got me wee Starlet, and we're gonna do some drifted drifts on the Crown Range. Check it out. That is a steep incline to begin with. This is it. This is where he initiated the first drift. Oh. It failed miserably. I mean, what do you expect? It's a Starlet. To this day, I still wish this car was in my driveway. I crunched some numbers before I left New Zealand to see if it was even possible to ship to California and then drive it back home. The Starlet was my 1963 Opel Kadett, and I was Richard Hammond in the Botswana Top Gear episode. It didn't happen though. Shipping was impossible, so I sold it to a friend who drives this car. So I'm sure the Starlet will have more rally in its future, which is cool. But to get to the point, the Starlet, among being the greatest piece of 4 wheels a man could ever want or need, was also my ticket to an Otago Sports Car Club hillclimb, which I found out about, again, through the wonderful invention of the internet. This hillclimb, called the Bethune's Goalie Hillclimb, was where I first met the driver of a very special V8 Ford Capri. His name is Tony Johnston, a panel beater from Dunedin, who makes a living doing bodywork on vehicles, including the odd smashed-up rally car. Tony invited me to his shop, and after a few stops to visit, I realized I found my New Zealand version of Broken Motorsports. Tony's was a place I can go to get my rally fix in, meet drivers, and get my foot in the door to being accepted as part of the rally scene in New Zealand. I became a regular to the shop. I got to know the family. It's interesting seeing a family evolve around racing. The Johnstons have children, one of which is named after a famous rally driver. Come on, pedal, 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 pedal. Skid. Yeah, there you go. Oh. You know what they say? They say with age you need to get a roll cage. You need a roll cage?
No, I don't have a roll cage.
Are you gonna need one?
No.
For me as an observer, it was exciting to be part of something so real, and a lifestyle that was so Finnish that you were breathing in rally every time you walked out of the Johnston's house. I'm excited to see how Tony's children grow up, since all the cards are on the table if they choose to follow the dreams of their parents. After all, the family's 12-year-old daughter has already co-drove for Tony in the Capri and is currently competing in rallycross style events. There are a few drivers I have rode along with where I felt completely confident in their inputs and what they were doing at all times. Tony is one of those drivers. I sat with Tony during a shakedown stage of a New Zealand Rally Championship round. What I mentioned before about road camber in New Zealand was a true experience. Pushing through coastal logging roads in a V8 muscle car and being glued to the road are two things I didn't think could ever go together. New Zealand drivers are completely fearless and very good, and they're all very good. Some of the rally stages have drop-offs that are a couple hundred feet, at least. You know, and if you mess up, you're going off of a huge drop. You know, it's ridiculous. On top of that, Tony and a couple other people don't run rally stage notes. They run route book notes, navigation notes. But in New Zealand, I don't know how this is in Europe or whatever, but there was a good percentage of drivers that didn't have turn-by-turn stage notes at all. That blew my mind. That wasn't even an option, because I can't imagine going over a crest and not knowing where the next turn is. In New Zealand, I could see it being a little bit easier because the roads are so flowing. They do have a route book where they're marking down the big sections, but there is no right 4, right 5, you know, left 3, tightens to 4, or tightens to 2. There is none of that. In April of last year, I helped crew for Tony during the Rally of Otago, the home rally of the city of Dunedin. This is where I was first introduced to Hayden Pettin. At the time of my introduction, he was giving press rides in a Mark II Escort. All I really knew was what people were telling me. He's good. I found that it was a good time to seize the opportunity and find out if I could have an interview. He invited me to his place a month later, and we had a little chat. The overwhelming theme of this series is the grassroots startup of a rally endeavor. Even Hayden had to start somewhere. So currently, you're about to step into S2000 Fiesta in the next few weeks here.
Yep.
You've been in SWRC cars, PWRC cars, but let's step way back. Let's go back into the days of the Mini. And,
it's a long time ago that, but
so this was your first car, I presume, right?
Yeah, and it was. I think I was 13 when we first got the Mini, and we basically just finished go-karting. We're at the crossroads of getting into cars, deciding whether to go the circuit or the rally route, and for me it was an easy decision. But we basically had $500 in the bank from selling the go-kart, and the Mini was the best car that sort of come up, and not the most spectacular of cars, but we decided we wanted a front-wheel drive car, a car that could teach me the right driving techniques to go a lot further forward in the sport, and the Mini was the most ideal car around at the time, and perfect for the paddock type time trial events that we wanted to do. For me, it was always rallying. Like when I was a kid, I was always watching rally videos. Like I was never watching cartoons or your normal kid stuff. It was always rally videos getting played 10, 20 times. Particularly when Colin McRae won the World Championship in '95. Okay. That's what gave me the aspirations to want to get right to the top. So, there was always that thing in the back of your head that you wanted to be world champion. I guess through those younger years, it was like a dream. It was like you wanted to be an astronaut or something way out of your reach. It's not really until probably the last 3 or 4 years that all of a sudden those goals seem realistic all of a sudden. So, but for me, I've been always a rally nut, quite narrow-minded, so, which could be a bad thing as well. So
you can be the youngest here to start stage rally. Yep. And it's something that's always blown my mind, because you look at people and you're like, oh, you're 12 and you're co-driving? Like that's crazy to me, Yeah. But you were kind of along those lines with the Mini, and then stepping into co-driving. But what is it really like? I mean, you can start co-driving at 12, but apparently you told me before that you can start driving here at 12.
I think New Zealand is probably the youngest country in the world. You can get a Motorsport New Zealand licence at the age of 12. With that licence, you can do any closed event type events, your hill climb, sprint, time trial events and paddocks. You can actually do a rally as well. The only way you could do a rally though is that you'd have to have someone who was co-driving with you, who had had their full licence, who would then drive the car on the touring section between stages. Yeah. So it could be done. It's not done very often here. I think it's a great thing. It's great for teaching people car control from a young age. Yeah.
And you went to school in Geraldine, right here?
Yes, yep, just in the road.
So what was it like being the race car driver?
Well, I wasn't at school very often, and particularly through high school, like we're travelling the country, going rallying, and my mind wasn't really on school. I wasn't your role model student, so I probably spent a bit of time away rallying, and when I was at school my mind was somewhere else anyway. But you know, I had good mates at school and they're actually still part of it now. People I went to school with, and they used to come along, help service and bits and pieces, and you sort of had your wee group. And but no, obviously in terms of my rally career, started taking off probably when I left school, when I was 18, and that's when it really sort of started taking on the world stage.
After we got through the younger years, I needed to know one more thing from the driver's perspective, just in case I never got the opportunity myself. I forgot to mention before, in 2011 you were a PWRC champion.
Yes.
Pretty much almost right out of the box.
It was
2010 you ran,
Yep.
2011 you won.
Yep.
And now you're in a Super 2000 car. What are the differences? What do you like better driving a production car versus Super 2000 car?
They are
Is it a
quite
lot to
different.
adapt?
There's very a lot. It probably, in hindsight, took me most of last year to really start to adapt to the Super 2000 car. Simply for the last 6 years, I've been driving a turbo car, and with the turbo, obviously you get that torque, you get that low down torque, and you can basically throw it in fifth gear almost some cars and some rallies, and just leave it in fifth gear and just drive it, and you get the engine torque. The Super 2000 car, you've got to be changing gear all the time. They rev to 8,500 revs, and the peak torque is between 8.3 and 8.5. You've got a 200 RPM window of max torque, and to keep in that all the time, when I've come from an environment where I always just keep changing gears, is really, really difficult. So I think I'm starting to get on top of it now. But the Super 2000 car is just an incredible car to drive. Like, it's a full-blown rally car. Every single part on it's fabricated to be a race car. You know, from the sequential gearbox to you can brake so much later. It's very responsive. They're an amazing car to drive. But in saying that, the Group N cars and the production cars are probably easier to drive because they're a bit more like a lazy boy couch, if you like. You just sort of sit there and you can just do things, and you can let the car do a bit more of the work. But you feel like a real race driver when you're in these other cars. So they're definitely pretty special.
Talking with Hayden had me itching for more. I decided it was time to act. No longer was I waiting to finish my Impreza at home. I was going to start my racing in New Zealand. Leave it to Kiwis to tell it like it is. In New Zealand, rallycross is called Grass Autocross, which is pretty much exactly what it is, since it's usually done in sheep paddocks. I decided my rallycross / grass autocross debut was going to be just south of Dunedin, in my 50 horsepower front-wheel drive Starlet. But, just like everything else in life, as soon as you get overly excited, it all goes wrong. The day before my rallycross debut, my Starlet wouldn't get spark. With the little time I had, I started doing what every somewhat okay mechanic in college does. Start throwing new parts in it. The cheapest ones first, starting with the plugs. Then I replaced the distributor condenser. Still no luck. With time running out to race, I borrowed a car from a friend and drove down to Milton, New Zealand just to watch. Once again, not planning to film anything that day, I only brought a GoPro. So my apologies in advance once I tell you that my actual rallycross debut did happen when I showed up and Tony Johnston let me share his rear-wheel drive 60 series Starlet with his entire family, and I only had a GoPro to film it on. But that's what happened. If I could pick any budget rally car to buy in this country, it would be a 60 series Starlet. For the low cost of a few $1,000s, you could own a rear-wheel drive platformed hatch, get Toyota reliability, and 1,000 miles per hour. I assume this is the reason why when I showed up to this event, half the field were Starlets. Tony, his wife, and his stepdaughter all shared this car with me. The engine basically didn't turn off all day, and I'm surprised how well the 30-year-old engine could handle the revs we were pushing it to. After a few passes with the Johnstons, it was my time to give it a go.
Why did you race my Starlet?
What I'm borrowing it.
Why?
Why? My car broke down.
What is it?
It's a Starlet.
Yeah, I was disappointed that I didn't get to race my car for my first event. But a rear-wheel drive prep Starlet for the first event? What an opportunity! Plus, rear-wheel drive is my favorite platform, and probably the one I'm most comfortable driving. I was just about mid-pack in times at the end of the day. which I felt was respectable for the American kid. My only excuse for this was I spent too much time going sideways and not enough time holding momentum. But then again, as an actual famous car journalist once spoke, he who shall be last shall be sideways and smiling. I left the Milton Rallycross starry-eyed. I needed more. I quickly returned to Tony's shop to feed the rally hunger. This time it was to fix a replica Fiat 131 Abarth rally car. The first time I saw this car, I literally fell flat on my face. I'm in love with Fiat 131s. There's something about boxy body styles, rear-wheel drive, and wide fender flares that give me chills all over. Yes, this isn't a real Abarth, but who cares? These days, I'd be afraid to rally a real one. When this 131 rolled at the Rally of Otago, I shed a tear. But now it was at Tony's body shop for a fix. It was an honor to help reassemble my dream car. I guess the only thing left now was to assemble my other dream car. Oh yeah, that's when Tony mentioned it. I was assembling a signal cluster for the 131. Just screwing together two pieces of plastic when he said it. Oh, you like the 131? You should check out the 037 some guy is rebuilding in the North Island. Oh. That's next time.
Oh, that's what it is, yeah. Yep.
This is a good weight for the ocean.
Oh, and by the way, to check out the full Hayden Pettit interview and the drive uncut, click this link here. I hope you guys enjoyed the show.